The introduction is kind of familiar. If you ever watched Alice in Wonderland, then yeah, that's about it. It's kind of like that, but instead of being a girl who follows a rabbit, it's more like a chameleon. Well, at least this game isn't directed by Disney. Get it? Because the rabbit and yeah, let's just move on to the gameplay. For some reason, I feel like after I'm done reviewing this, people are gonna start calling this game Alice in Wonderland rather than calling it Chameleon Twist. In the game, you have to collect crowns. Yeah, this is actually something that you don't really expect to see. It's kind of like Mario collecting stars, but this one is collecting crowns for some reason. I guess it's not to become a king. But hey, you know what's the fun part is that since you're a chameleon, you can use your tongue by pressing the B button, and if you hold B and A, you can perform a spin. If you press the button C left and C right, it will just move the camera, but it won't kind of go into use, so this is very different from other platform games. One thing I did love in this game is the bosses. So the first one you're facing is a gorilla who probably has what came back from a concert. You know, I wish they could have been. I'm gonna be honest, they could have been more creative. Why not a giant spider or anything like that? But I could see where the gorilla is. I guess not trying to reference King Kong or Donkey Kong. Once you do beat the boss, it'll actually show what happens, and then it'll give you the score, which I will be skipping that in the other levels. Sometimes you get a place if you actually do it much faster. Have you ever dreamed of going to a place where, and instead of walking around with people, it's walking around with ants? Well, this is a stage. This stage is basically an ant stage, and it's actually pretty cool. I gotta admit it. I know there might be people who doesn't like insects, but you gotta admit this is actually really cool. In this part, I always get confused which door is which because there's gonna be like a bunch of ants like they're running for a marathon, even though you just have to, beat them. The next boss we're facing against is a queen ant. I know what you're thinking. Why does she look like a queen from England? I think that's what the developers were thinking when they were thinking the word Queen Ant. Even the music sounds something from England, I'm not joking. The Queen Ant also has the ability to pop ants out of her butt. So yeah, how do you beat her? You have to make her fall down, so you make sure that the chameleon's tongue grabs a stick and then press A while holding the B button and then twirls around, and you have to get a ant, because if you do not do this, the queen ant's gonna get back up and will attack you. But enough said, let's move on to the next stage, a bomb stage. Yeah, they actually were really creative in this part. This is actually one of my favorite stages. It is so cool, it's like amazing. Like, you think that, many video games are like, oh, well, there's an ice stage, there's a fire stage, well, what can we build? Oh, bombs. Everybody likes bombs. Well, actually, we know that real bombs are dangerous, but this is a video game, not real life. Sometimes you gotta blow up some blocks in order to get all the way to the boss. This is kind of a true story, but when I was a kid, I always thought that the boss from the bomb stage is actually a snake holding bombs, but now looking at it, it's a robotic snake that you have to blow it up by shooting bombs at its stomach. I hope YouTube doesn't get confused with all of this, even though this is a video game. It's, and if they do complain, I'll just tell them it's for kids. It even has an E rating on the box art. The next stage is a candy stage, and I'm sorry, I just gotta skip this because I'm just skipping to the boss. So the next boss is, of course, a cake. being controlled by domino pieces. You're all probably thinking, why did I skip the entire gameplay of this stage to the bosses? Because if I talked to you about this, I probably would have gotten really hungry every time I mentioned foods. You know, looking at this boss actually reminds me. It's like if somebody built a tank, but instead of having wheels to run towards you, have like wheels around, and it kind of spins around, so you don't know what's gonna happen. Although I do find that this is one of the easiest boss to beat, because you just basically run around, dodge all the strawberry bombs, and then grab the dice people and just spit them out. With that being said, let's just move on to the next boss so I won't get hungry. We are now in the sand stage. I love this one. This was actually one of my favorites. I remember me, my brother, and my family would always work together and always beat this, figure out how to get to the boss. And back then as a kid, I would struggle with this, but now I got more skills, so I can actually beat this easier. If you use the tongue to surround yourself and there's the spikes, it will actually stop where the tongue is, so it's actually pretty cool. Of course, we're moving to the boss. So this boss is I don't know if it's an armadillo or a bug, but I've always thought it was an armadillo as a kid. So it jumps around and it comes out enemies. So what you want to do is you want to time it right, grab the enemies with the tongue, and once it lands, you have to shoot it. Or if you can do it much faster, right before it's about to land, shoot at the right time to be able to beat it. You know, I just realized something. This stage, the sand, reminds me a lot of the sand from Super Mario 64. And now we're at the final level, Ghost Castle. It is actually, it's kind of like more like I could see where they call it Ghost Castle. The music isn't really scary, it's kind of catchy, so yeah, so it's actually pretty catchy. You think that this level would be really easy to beat, but it's actually really hard. It's really tricky, and you have to get it at the right moments. Sometimes this level actually feels like you have to use all the skills that you know from the past levels. This is your true battle. Then there's this part where the stage is rotating. This kind of reminds me of actually I don't remember any game I played when I was little that involved with stages rotating, so I guess I had no reason to bring that up. Of all the things that I find really weird is that a chameleon able to absorb fire. I mean, isn't that weird? Like, tongue, fire, isn't that like supposed to burn you? But apparently in this game, I guess it's the world of cartoons. It's you can eat them and spit them out. Then there's this part where you gotta grab a fire, spit it to one of the candles in order to summon a platform. That's actually pretty cool. I'll just give that credit. That's pretty cool. Back then, I always thought that the monsters in this game was actually, you know, something they made up, but the more I looked in it, sometimes I feel like they're based on folklore in Japan, which could be pretty cool or pretty creepy. Probably mostly creepy. Then you got this part where you have to reach to the boss. This is where we almost get to the boss, but you have to be very careful. If you fall down, you have to start all over again, and it's not easy doing this one. So my tip is good luck. That's about it. Just good luck. And now we're at the final boss. This final boss is fused by boxes, barrels, those monsters that spits out fire, and of course, balls, color balls. Well, mostly the white ones. However, in order to beat this one, you have to break the colorful balls, and you have it will actually use some of the skills that you know as well. After you break the last ball, it'll actually go back, it'll transform into a vehicle, and then it'll start attacking you. This is where it gets really interesting, and in order to defeat it, you have to use the balls. White balls. However, if you do not time it right, it will actually re-heal itself. It's kind of like a regenerating, but it's healing. And if, you have to do it really fast. You cannot just hit him once. You gotta grab everything you got and just literally destroy it. And there goes my review of Chameleon Twist. Even though that this game is really amazing, it's actually one of my favorite games ever since I was a kid. I sometimes wish I could have friends, families to come hang out with me and play this game. I mean, the game that it's actually one of the games I grew up with, a really fun one I enjoyed as a kid. It's probably I think as a kid this was my fourth favorite game I would play a lot because it was really nice, it was fun, cartoonish, and pretty amazing. Yes, I know. Many games have evolved, such as Mario 64, and Donkey Kong 64, and so many others. They've actually changed the platform genre, but this one was really cool. It was really a great game. I love it. It was one of my favorites, and I hope you guys enjoyed this last part. Well, technically, it's really a big... Now that I'm looking at this, it looks like it's an unused gameplay. It wasn't until later on I found out there was a sequel, which I don't own that one, which I wish I could have been playing that one to see how it is. But, to be fair, this one's actually my favorite, so it's amazing, it's awesome, it's great, and for most of the part, nowadays people complain about how platform genres are too hard or how they should stop, but with the release of Super Mario Odyssey and recently Yooka-Laylee on the Switch, it's probably going to be one of the reason why we still have platforms, because we don't want... platform games aren't meant to frustrate people. They're meant so people could have fun. Yeah, so I guess that's my opinion. So, in other words, Chameleon Twist is a great game. It is awesome, and even though it was amazing, I still enjoy it, even though if I was a kid, and it was awesome. At least this review wasn't reviewed by Michael Switch 64, because it probably would have made a joke and probably would have made it too far. Like, seriously. I mean, he thought he had a great idea for Donkey Kong Country 3 where I basically moved my lips and he would do it. No, we're not doing that. So, I hope you guys enjoy TheClayberry, and I hope you guys enjoy this review, and I will see you guys in the next episode.